Congressman, you got Dr. Fauci testifying on Capitol Hill today, and you guys have uncovered some more interesting emails from Fauci relating to what exactly went on with the Wuhan virology lab and how COVID emerged. What can you tell us about the emails in the letter that you sent today?
From the get-go, it looks like Dr. Fauci, Dr. Collins knew this thing likely came from a lab, and then they went into overdrive to cover their backside and make sure the country did not know that. We had a staff member who was able to go in and view these emails in camera because what we had got via FOIA were all redacted. But never forget, Clay, that on January 31st, 2020, there's an email that comes at 10:30 p.m. at night to Dr. Fauci. The email says, virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. It comes from Dr. Christian Anderson, one of the virologists who's been getting your tax money in grant dollars over the years. Virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. Virus looks engineered. 10:32 p.m., January 31st, 2020. And that's a fancy way of saying this thing came from a lab. And Dr. Fauci starts emailing people at 2 in the morning, starting this process in place to say, we don't want that information out there. There's a conference call the next day, and that conference call, it's Fauci, Collins, and 11 virologists from around the world who also have been getting your tax dollars and your listeners' tax dollars over the years. And what we finally got were the emails that happened on that as a result of that conference call, where I think they were frankly getting their story straight, because now that we've seen the unredacted emails, they all say, one of them says, I just can't figure out how this thing gets accomplished in nature. The other one says, I really can't think of any plausible natural scenario. So these guys understood this thing had to come from a lab, but they spend the next several months trying to downplay that. And we got other emails that talk about that this thing, oh, no, it came in nature. It didn't actually happen. So how these guys switch in that short a time is amazing to me. But I think it just shows that they were more concerned about covering their backside. And frankly, we have one that says we don't want to do any potential harm to science or international harmony. That's an email from Collins to Fauci. So it's almost like they were more concerned about the Chinese people's feelings, the Chinese government's feelings, than they were getting the truth to the American people.
Congressman Jordan, it's Buck. I want to know what you think should be done about all of this. I mean, Fauci today was getting grilled by Senator Rand Paul a bit on this same issue of coordinating to crush epidemiologists in the early days who weren't going along with the party line, whether it was about Wuhan or any number of other things, by the way, that there was bureaucratic infighting. And I think that's really Fauci's true skill, is being a bureaucratic infighter and somebody who can lay the old D.C. ambush on folks. And I want to know what you think should be done about this as we continue to get this information. We're talking about these emails now. Where should we go, and what does accountability or change look like as a result of these revelations?
Well, one thing that should certainly happen is we should not be using American tax dollars to fund gain-of-function research. That should be that should be prohibited, period. That needs to happen. Second, the power that Collins and Fauci have. Fauci still has, Collins has left the government, thank goodness, but the power that they have, because they control so much money. You know what the budget is to NIH and CDC? It's $56 billion a year, and they're handing out some of that money to these virologists who say on February 1st on this conference call, they say this thing came from a lab, in different words, and then 4 days later their story changes, and then they write an article 17 days later, February 17th, they write an article that they first give to Fauci to edit before it appears in Nature Medicine magazine. So the 5 of the 11 people on that call then are authors of this article that goes in Nature Medicine magazine, and they change their position. They say, no, it didn't come from a lab at all. So it changed in that short of time. What did Fauci and Collins tell these guys? And did they pass any of this information? Did Fauci or Collins pass any of this information to President Trump and his team? This is something the President of the United States needs to know. If it came from a lab that we funded and they were doing gain-of-function research, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, needs to know that, particularly when the country's China. Did they share it with him? Because it sure looks like they didn't. They went into complete cover-their-backside mode. So, yeah, they need to be held accountable. And what needs to happen, certainly, is the law needs to change and say we should not be even thinking about funding gain-of-function research.